Hello, adventurers, and welcome to another Gamebook reading. My name is Sprocket, and today we're going to be returning to the Cave of Time. That's right, the Cave of Time was book number 1 in the Choose Your Own Adventure series, and we found and explored it for the first time in a previous video. I'll put a link to it in the description. Now this is book number 50 in the Choose Your Own Adventure series. We have adventurer's blood in our veins, and we're determined to go back for another trip through time. If this is your first time watching a Gamebook adventure with me, welcome! You guys really keep me going, and I do appreciate your support and feedback. Let's begin Return to the Cave of Time by Edward Packard and illustrated by Hedin. Your heart races as you make your way through Snake Canyon, looking for the entrance to the Cave of Time. Though it's a sunny summer day, you're wearing a warm sweater under your all-weather parka, as well as wool socks and pants. You don't know where you'll end up once you've entered the cave, but you want to be ready for anything. Finally, you've reached the familiar grove of pine trees, but your hopes fade as you realize that landslides have covered the cave's main entrance. Determined not to give up, you search the floor of the canyon until you find, hidden behind clumps of sage, another barely passable entrance. Crawling on hands and knees, you enter a tunnel that, judging by its direction, should lead to the main chamber. The tunnel seems endless and keeps curving to one side, as if it might be going around in a circle. After a half hour of crawling, you feel a tightening of the muscles in your throat, the beginning of panic. There's not enough room to turn around. You're not even sure you can back out. Turn to page 3. Painfully, you crawl on around a bend to the right and then one to the left. Somewhere up ahead, a voice is chanting. Or is it many voices singing in unison? It's an eerie tune with only 3 or 4 notes. A moment later, you reach a dimly lit chamber. A thin, ghost-like figure abruptly stops singing and looks at you intently. You can hardly find words, but as if to answer your question before you ask it, the strange man, if it is a man, says, "You have found the Oracle of Time." You are amazed to meet anyone in the cave, much less an oracle. For a moment, you are afraid, but as you look more carefully at the oracle, you can't help but smile. His expression is kindly and wise, but there is also a playful, impish look in his eyes. You realize he may be able to tell you some things you've wondered about. "What is time?" you ask. The oracle is silent for a moment, but then answers in a firm voice. "Time is what keeps everything from happening at once." "When did time start?" you ask. "And when will it end?" "Would you like to see?" You gulp in amazement. "Sure." "What then? The beginning or the end?" If you say you want to see the beginning of time, turn to page 11. If you say you want to see the end of time, turn to page 17. I'd like to see the beginning of time. I think that'll answer lots of questions we probably all have. Let's turn to page 11. "I'd like to see the beginning," you say, and instantly you find yourself floating, weightless, in totally black space. There are no stars, or suns, or moons, or wisps of light. Not a breath of air, no sound, no smell or taste, no up or down or sideways, no motion, no feeling, nothing but silence. Then, suddenly, there's a point of light so brilliant it feels like pins driven into your eyeballs. Even before you can blink, the light expands like a million lightning bolts, radiating in all directions. Your eyes shut, but the light is still painfully bright. As you move your hands to cover your eyes, you scream, but no sound comes. At that same moment, darkness returns. Then, very slowly, your eyes begin to adjust to the dim light of your surroundings, and you realize you are once again in the chamber of the oracle. Turn to page 6. You are shaken by your experience, not eager to try something like that again, but you're more curious than ever about time. Tell me, you ask the oracle, did anything happen before time began? And could anything happen after it ends? Nothing can happen unless time is passing, the oracle answers. But things could happen in another time frame, outside our time. Then another time would be passing. You think for a moment, then ask, could I ever visit another time frame where another time is passing? It is possible, the oracle replies. The Cave of Time has passageways that lead to such places, places where you perceive others as they will be in their future, while they perceive you as you were in your past. By now, your head is spinning. I think right now I'd rather just stay in our own time frame, you say. Very well, says the oracle with a smile. Which shall it be, the future or the past? If you choose the future, turn to page 47. If you choose the past, turn to page 66. And I'm pretty curious to see what they show us the future's like. So we're going to go to page 47. You are lying in an open silk-lined box. Is it a coffin? No, you're hooked up to a tube and wires, as if you were in a hospital, but you don't feel sick. You feel quite well, very well, in fact, though you can't sit up. Something that you can't see is holding you down. You hear soothing chords of music. The room is bathed in dim light, which constantly shifts its hue from sky blue to yellow-green and red-orange to blue again. Moving your hand to your scalp, you feel tiny wires hooked into your head. They must be paralyzing your nerves, so you can't move the muscles that could free you. Turn to page 52. Where are you? How did you get here? Suddenly, you remember. You traveled through the Cave of Time, and you must surely be at some point in the future. Your situation is so weird that it must be far in the future. You seem to be in a long, cylindrical room like the cabin of an enormous airplane, and there are coffins, you can't think of a better word for them, like yours, with wires and tubes and other black, tank-like shapes. The ceiling is invisible because of what seems like a dense fog that begins only a few feet over your head. It's as if you were in the middle of a weird dream, yet you don't feel scared. Though held prisoner, you feel pleasurable sensations, as if you were eating chocolate ice cream, while smelling bread baking, while hearing great music, while seeing a beautiful sunset, while getting a good back rub. Whoever has captured you must have hooked a wire into the pleasure center of your brain. Suddenly, the music changes key. A robotic arm inserts a clear plastic mask over your mouth. You start to gasp for breath, but then realize there's an oxygen mixture being fed into the mask. A moment later, your coffin tilts, sliding you into a tank of warm water that's moving rapidly, as if it were a swiftly flowing stream. Turn to page 68. It looks like we've entered the Matrix. This book was written in 1985. Instinctively, you start swimming against the current. At least with your oxygen mask, there's no problem breathing. You stroke and kick hard, glad to be exercising your muscles and relieving the tension of being held paralyzed. Your tubes and wires are still firmly in place, and your body is held by straps under your shoulders and around your waist. You're in what amounts to a swimming treadmill. So this is how people keep their muscles from wasting away, you think. Ingenious, but horrible. Everything is decided for you. You go through the motions, but you have no choices. The people who rule this mad world must think they are providing the perfect life, but one could also think of it as a perfect prison. Turn to page 80. Suddenly, the current is flowing more swiftly. As you speed up your pace, you feel new pleasurable sensations. You swim faster and faster, until even with almost pure oxygen flowing into your mask, you feel yourself reaching the limit of endurance. Then gradually, the water level falls, and you are left weightless, suspended in warm air currents that blow and swirl all about your body, drying you in a few minutes. Gentle robotic arms lift you back into your coffin, and life, if that's what you can call it, goes on as before. As you try to adjust to the reality that lies ahead, you are startled to hear a voice, which must be entering your head through one of the implanted wires. You have been identified as an alien intruder. Your bioanalysis shows 87.37% probability you understand English. Your brainwave reaction to the preceding statements shows 99.97% probability that you understand English. Relax, you will not be harmed. Stand by for transport. A moment later, you pass out. Turn to page 108. When you regain consciousness, you find yourself seated in a chair made of very strange materials. Whenever you move, the chair adjusts itself so that however you're sitting, it's molded to your body, giving you the most perfect and comfortable support. The room you are in is much smaller than your living chamber, but the same hypnotic music is playing. Seated nearby is a woman whose body and face seem elongated, as if she were an image in an amusement park mirror. Yet she has a beautiful face, and her soft olive eyes have a warmth and kindness that surprises you. "You are an alien of uncertain origin," she says gently. "Our computer will determine how you got here and what is to be done with you." Who are you, and where am I?" you ask. "My name is Celeste 433, and I am your overseer. You are on Suprema 87, Colony 143, to the 5th power, Proxima Neptune, and you are very fortunate to be here. Through advanced technology, all problems have been solved, all needs taken care of. There is nothing for our people to do but to exist in a state of perpetual pleasure." You start to speak, but a sharply focused light beams at your face, increases in brightness for a moment, and then fades as you decide not to say anything. Celeste 433 continues. "Our monitors show that you are not completely happy in the supremely pleasurable life we have made possible for you. You must have an irrational, rebellious quality in your personality, a quality acquired in your previous culture. This will cause difficulty. Therefore, I must ask you, will you accept your good fortune and have a life of continual pleasure? Or will your thoughts and actions become increasingly rebellious? Please answer truthfully. Our monitors will show if you are lying." If you say you'll accept a life of perpetual pleasure, turn to page 7. If you refuse, turn to page 29. We're going to take the blue pill or the red pill? Yeah, I don't think there's any way we could be happy here. We're going to refuse. We're going to turn to page 29. When you tell Celeste 433 that you are not willing to give up your freedom, she nods and, to your surprise, smiles. You are a decider, she says. Because you are from a primitive culture, you do not understand that constant pleasure is superior to freedom of choice, though that should be obvious to anyone. Since freedom is more important to you than pleasure, I shall tell you something I should not have mentioned otherwise. Suprema 87 may soon be involved in a war between the Grand Overseers. Who are they? Celeste 433 dismisses your question with a wave of her long, bony hands. We have no time for that. Listen carefully. I admire your courage and therefore will give you a chance to survive this war, which I fear will destroy this colony. I shall provide you with an escape capsule, but your troubles will not be over. Space is a vast and hostile wilderness. There are only 2 destinations you can reach where you will have any hope of survival. One of them is Alpha Alpha, a colony beyond Pluto that is far more advanced than this one. In fact, it may be the most advanced in the galaxy. The other place where you might possibly survive is the planet Earth. Earth? That's my home planet. I'd really like to get back there. Turn to page 32. Celeste 433 shakes her head. You don't seem to understand. You've traveled through a time warp. Earth is no longer what it was. It is a scarred and ruined planet, a backward child of the galaxy, an archaeological scrap heap. But the decision is yours. What should you do? You long to see Earth again, even though it may have changed for the worse. Of course, you're curious about Alpha Alpha, though what you've seen of advanced civilization so far does not encourage you. If you decide to shuttle to Alpha Alpha, turn to page 54. If you choose to shuttle to the planet Earth, turn to page 94. I want to see what Alpha Alpha's like. Let's go to page 54. I'll choose Alpha Alpha, you say. Farewell then, and good luck. Even as Celeste 433 is saying goodbye, you're blanking out. When you awaken, you find yourself already aboard the space capsule. Through the transparent dome, you can see a myriad of stars, and even neighboring galaxies with a clarity that is found only in outer space. Directly before you is a luminous cloud. It looks like 1,000,000 sparkling drops of water suspended in space. As your space capsule approaches the object, you see that it is not a cloud at all, but a planet dotted with thousands and thousands of lakes. Could this be Alpha Alpha? You look around your capsule. There are no controls, no communication equipment, no food, not even water. Your entire flight has been programmed. Surely your destination can't be far away, or you would starve to death. Turn to page 62. Your heart leaps as you begin to notice little flashes of light jumping from one part of the planet to another. One flash comes right at you. You blink, but it's harmless. Perhaps they have already sensed your presence by now. Being so advanced, the creatures on Alpha Alpha should have no trouble bringing your craft in for safe landing. But your course soon veers away. With a heavy heart, you watch it slip to one side. Ahead, there is nothing but a few distant stars. You try to hold back your tears. Then you consider that the most advanced civilization must surely be based on love, not cruelty. You can't have reached it yet, but you won't give up hope. The end. Okay, I guess we weren't meant to see what Alpha Alpha has in store for us just yet, so let's go back. We're going to go back to planet Earth. And that was on page 94. You wake up in another coffin-like capsule, but this time you are alone in space. Through the transparent dome, you can see the stars and planets with a clarity and beauty you never saw from under the Earth's atmosphere. To your left is Saturn with its spectacular rings, and on the right, Jupiter. Its famous red spot has broken into 3 small flecks of orange, but the 4 largest moons are as prominent as they were to Galileo in 1630. Up ahead is a very large reddish planet, Mars. You must be very close to it because it looks brighter and larger than Jupiter, even though its diameter is 20 times smaller. Beyond Mars is another planet. The large moon near it tells you that it's Earth and not Venus, but it doesn't look like the Earth you remember, with the beautiful swirls of white clouds overlaying great stretches of blue ocean and green-hued land masses. Instead, the whole planet is covered with thick gray clouds. Has the sun stopped shining on the Earth? You wonder how this could be. Maybe it's the greenhouse effect you heard was coming, caused by the increase of carbon dioxide in the air? As your shuttle approaches Earth, you begin to regret your decision to return. But your thoughts are interrupted by a voice coming out of the box simply marked Communication.
Greetings from Earth Orbit 2303. We have been advised of your approach by Suprema 87. We understand you desire to land on Earth itself. This is a very unusual request. Normally, only archaeologists visit Earth. It is not classified as a habitable planet. Nearly all descendants of Earth survivors are in orbital colonies. Are you sure you want to land on Earth itself? If not, we can redirect you to planet Sintra, which has an environment similar to the one Earth used to have.
If you decide to land on Earth anyway, turn to page 37. If you ask to be redirected to Sintra, turn to page 14. Well, it sounds like Earth is really not habitable. If only archaeologists are stopping by to visit, they probably have to have lots of survival gear. And there's really nothing for us. So let's go to planet Sintra. We're going to go to page 14. The moment you instruct the computer to redirect you to Sintra, you feel the thrust of acceleration. It's as if you suddenly weighed 300 pounds, the price of rapid travel through space. It's more than an hour before you slowly resume your former weightlessness. The capsule has stopped accelerating and is now coasting at what enormous speed you cannot tell. As you are relaxing, a buzzer sounds and words appear on your video screen. Stand by for hibernation treatment. When you come out of hibernation 83.5 Earth years from now, you will find yourself on the planet Sintra of star number 8773389-516, a highly stable Class C star in the Milky Way galaxy. Sintra is one of the most beautiful, abundant, habitable planets in the galaxy. Conditions are almost identical with those that existed on Earth in the late 20th century. Drifting into hibernation, you try to imagine what life will be like on Sintra. Turn to page 26. Your next sensation is a dull electric shock in your head, then another and another. You flail your arms as if trying to brush away a fly. You want desperately to go back to sleep. But there's no chance of going back to sleep. The mild shocks persist for a few moments. Then you hear loud, lively music playing in your ears. When it stops, a voice speaks. You are awakening from hibernation. Your spacecraft has landed on the planet Sintra. Atmosphere and temperature are well suited for human life. You may open the hatch whenever you want. As you slowly regain your senses, your mind is flooded with questions. What sort of people live here? What kinds of animals and plants? Will there be radio and TV? You hope there will be kids your own age. You can't wait to see. Turn to page 78. You stretch, sit up, and look out the window. What a sight! On one side is a cluster of brightly painted houses. On the other, a beautiful park rimmed by giant ferns. In the center is a magnificent fountain. You throw open the hatch and breathe the fresh, clean air. At the same time, several large, tear-shaped cars silently approach your capsule. Smiling and waving as they hold out great bunches of flowers, the inhabitants of Sintra joyfully greet you. Let's have a look at what the inhabitants of Sintra look like. Okay, well, let's go back to page 6. This is where we were talking to the Oracle, and the choices we were given here. If you choose the future, turn to page 47, and if you choose the past, turn to page 66. This time, we're going to choose the past. Let's go to page 66. You feel as if your mind has become detached from your body, that you are in transport through time. Then reality returns. You are in a cave close to the entrance. Looking out, you can see that you are on a mountainside. A vast landscape of plains and lakes and patches of forest stretch beneath you. There is no sign of human habitation. You have the feeling that you may be living thousands of years in the past, perhaps even before the appearance of human life. In the distance, you notice dark moving specks, a herd of grazing animals, perhaps. Where there's life, there's food, and hope for survival, you think. Suddenly, you sense a presence nearby. You whirl around, and your eyes meet other eyes. They belong to a boy who looks older than you, even though he is several inches shorter. His wavy brown hair is shoulder length, and he is naked except for crudely fashioned shorts made of animal skins. He is solidly built and strikingly muscular. His bushy eyebrows are set on bony ridges above his eyes, giving him a brutish look. Yet there's something sweet and friendly in his expression. "Hello," you say. "Lark," the boy replies. He steps close and looks curiously at you. At that moment, you hear a deep-throated growl. In the dim light near the back of the cave, you can make out an animal of monstrous proportions, a gigantic cave bear, larger than any bear alive in your own time. Terrified, you stand watching. The bear edges closer. The boy touches you. "Narga!" He pulls at your arm and starts climbing the sheer wall of the cave, gaining handholds on rough niches in the rock. You watch him with amazement as he pulls himself up by his arms alone. A moment later, he slips into a cleft in the rock, safely out of reach of the bear. The bear follows the boy with his eyes, then turns towards you and lets out a roar that shakes your bones. You get the feeling that this is his cave, and you'd better do something fast. If you try to follow Lark up the wall of the cave, turn to page 50. If you run out of the cave, turn to page 56. We're going to try to follow Lark. Let's go to page 50. You leap high against the cave wall, grab a handhold, dig the toe of your right foot into a tiny niche, and begin to climb. The bear is close behind you, breathing and snorting. You're able to climb a couple of feet higher, but the wall becomes even steeper above you. You desperately feel for a higher foothold. Suddenly your wrist is seized in a vice-like grip, and you feel yourself rising, then being hurled onto the ledge. Only then does a powerful grip release your wrist. Aching and sore, you look into the smiling eyes of Lark, then back at the paws of the bear raking the lip of the ledge, still trying to get at you. "Ugh," says Lark. He starts crawling into the dark tunnel. You follow, hoping it will lead you into the open. Instead, it leads you into an abyss, and you're falling, clutching Lark's arms, tumbling through the cave of time. Turn to page 93. Suddenly, you're waking as if from a dream. Once again, you're inside the entrance of a cave. And something, maybe it's the smell of the air or the temperature or the faint sound of an airplane above, tells you you're back in your own time. But maybe you never left. Maybe you were just asleep. Could it be that you were dreaming? "Ach, Luga," says a voice you've heard before. It's Lark, walking toward you from the depths of the cave, a big smile on his broad face. "Lark, you're here. I can't believe it." You shake your head, wondering what you'll do with your friend from the past. There's only one thing you think of. Well, better come home with me. You're going to need a place to stay. Turn to page 22. The two of you follow the trail back towards Uncle Howard's ranch. It's only a mile or so until you've reached the road. You watch with amusement as Lark gasps at the sight of a trailer truck going by. You haven't seen anything yet, Lark. You're really going to like TV and computers and jet planes. Lark grins at you. Snook Ark. The end. I think that actually is a pretty good ending. I mean, we're back safely and we've got a new friend. But I think we can do better. Let's try one more thing. Let's go back to our encounter with Celeste 433, where she was giving us the option to go to Earth or to Alpha Alpha. That's on page 32. So here we've got the choice. If we go to Alpha Alpha, it's page 54. Or if you choose to shuttle to the planet Earth, go to page 94. Okay, 94 tells us to go to the next page. If we decide to land on Earth anyway, go to page 37. If you ask to be redirected to Sintra, turn to page 14. Okay, so this is where we saw that Earth was uninhabitable, I think. But this time, let's go ahead and land on Earth. Let's go to page 37. Earth may not be the same as it was, but it is, after all, your home. You're determined to see what happened to it. Your capsule plunges into the atmosphere, retro rockets firing to break the descent. In a few moments, you enter the yellow-gray clouds that cover the planet's surface. You wonder how far into the future you've journeyed. 1,000 years? Maybe even 1,000,000 years. Suddenly, a screen lights up. You read the computer-generated message that appears. Instructions for survival on planet Earth. Oxygen content 2.3%. Oxygen generating helmet must be worn at all times. Radioactivity 2.2. Radiation resistant coat and helmet cover must be worn except in protected zones. Food. Basic gene grain bits are the only edible food. Ingest 87 grams of Vitagram antitoxicant formula mark 8774439-5 with each kilogram of gene grain bits. All water must be demulsified and deacidified in Puroscan. All equipment needed for 1 year survival on this planet is included in your backpack, together with a Mark 3204 laser pistol, which will fire 300 times without loss of power. Turn to page 42. You've hardly finished reading these words when you feel an abrupt deceleration followed by a slight jolt. The capsule has made an astonishingly smooth landing. Through the window, you see an endless landscape of rocks and boulders, the sort you might find in a dried-up riverbed. So this is Earth. You can only hope it's not all like this. You quickly put on the oxygen-generating helmet and your radiation-resistant coat. Then you open the hatch and step out onto what, as far as you can tell, could be some desolate planet 1,000,000 light-years away. But you're not going to give in to despair. After all, your computer said there's food available. As you step outside and look around, Your heart sinks. You might as well be in the middle of a desert. Everywhere you look, you see flat, barren, rust-colored dirt. There's no way of knowing which way to walk. Before you can decide what to do, a saucer-shaped craft zooms in and hovers over your space capsule. You watch with fascination as wire arms descend and enfold the capsule like a spider wrapping up a fly. If you jump back into your space capsule, turn to page 70. If you just watch what happens, turn to page 115. I think without our spacecraft, we're going to be in trouble. We'll be like completely isolated. So I would jump back into the spacecraft. Let's turn to page 70. You dive into the capsule and shut the hatch. And just in time, because within seconds the saucer craft lifts off. The ground passes by at dizzying speed as the craft transports you across the desolate landscape, skimming over hills covered with stones and weeds. You cross a dried-up riverbed and then the ruins of a city. Gutted skyscrapers, rusting bridges, buildings toppled into shards of steel beams. You feel heartsick thinking of the horrible things that must have happened on Earth after you entered the Cave of Time. Then, as you pass over a barren hillside, a huge silvery dome appears before you. A panel slides open, and the saucer craft whisks you inside, into total darkness. In a moment, you sense that the craft is gently setting down. Turn to page 74. The hatch slides open. Lights come on. You are in an enormous hangar. 3 small, tear-shaped cars careen around the corner and come abruptly to a stop. A group of hominids dressed in drab gray uniforms emerge from the cars. One of them steps towards you. "Welcome to Earth," he says. "My name's Yamara, Council of Solar 7. We were notified you were coming. You were born on Earth and traveled through a time warp." "Through a cave of time," you say. "Yeah, it is the same thing," Yamara answers. "You've heard about it?" "There is a legend." "Where are we on Earth?" you ask. "In Golor, on the continent of America," he says. One of the hominids sets up a small video screen and presses buttons on a handheld keyboard. A full-color map appears. It's a map of the Earth, but one that looks very different from the Earth you knew. Australia has merged with Asia. Antarctica has drifted almost to Hawaii. North and South America have merged into one big glob. You realize that you must have been transported millions of years into the future. That means there's hardly any hope of finding the entrance of the Cave of Time, unless somehow a new opening has broken through the Earth's crust. Turn to page 84. "You were born on Earth. You may stay here," says Yamara. "Where will I live? What will I do?" you ask, wondering how you could fit into a world completely different from the one you knew. "First of all, we are custodians of the Earth, charged by the Planetary Council to supervise its recovery. During the past few 100,000 years, this planet's environment has improved tenfold. We are very proud of the work of the Earth Healers." "Proud? You can't believe your ears. From what I've seen of Earth, there's not much to be proud of," you say. "No grass or flowers, only a few sickly-looking weeds, cities in ruins." But your host interrupts. "Do not judge us, the living, for all the terrible things that have happened in the Earth's history. We and our forebears have been working for hundreds of thousands of years. Our robot craft spend 24 hours a day cleaning up debris and neutralizing radioactive sources. In some areas of the world, trees and plants are growing. Each century, carbon monoxide and other toxins decrease, and oxygen increases. Now, a person can sometimes take off his helmet and breathe the air for a few minutes. In a few million years, the Earth will be filled with plants and animal life, and the ocean and rivers and lakes and air will be as clear and pure as they were before humans spread over the planet. You are very moved by the noble goals of Yamara and fascinated by the state of life on Earth. This world, which for me is the world of the future, is very interesting, you say. But I want to return to my own time. Didn't you say there's a legend about a cave of time? Yes, there is a cave some 1,500 kilometers distant. We could take you there, but you should know this. Those who enter it never come out. There's a legend that creatures sometimes come out of the cave. Their bones lie scattered near the entrance because, of course, they cannot survive on Earth. You listen eagerly to what Yamara says. The place he speaks of may be the Cave of Time. If so, you may be able to reach your own time, though surely the odds are greatly against it. If you decide to seek out the Cave of Time, turn to page 20. If you decide to stay in the distant future, turn to page 58. I think we should stay here. Sounds kind of interesting to me. Let's turn to page 58. We're going to try to recover the Earth. We're going to help Yamara and try to bring back the Earth to a habitable place. So turn to page 58. When you tell Yamara of your decision to remain in his time, he steps forward and gives you a hug. You will not regret it, my young friend. You shall have the benefits and duties that all visitors to Earth are accorded, and because you are an Earthling yourself, you will be awarded your own cubicle in our underground city. What will I do with my time, you ask? You will be given a fleet of saucercraft to maneuver from your master control station. You will guide them in their rehabilitation tasks. When you have completed 200 years of service, you will be awarded your own personal spacecraft, and you will be free to settle anywhere on Earth or in any of the space colonies in the solar system. Life in some of them, I can assure you, is like living in heaven. But 200 years, you interrupt? I'll never live that long. You wouldn't have in your former lifetime, Yamara replies. But with our age-inhibiting treatment, you should live, I'd say about 3 million years. Well then, you reply, you've got a deal. The end. That seems like a pretty good ending. I like that. We've ended up in the future. We could potentially live for 3 million years, and we can help rehabilitate the Earth, and then we can get our own spacecraft and explore the galaxy. Try out different stuff. Sounds pretty cool. I like this ending. Okay, so as far as a review goes, a rating, I liked it. This was pretty good. I think it was a good mix of story and choices. So there was a bunch of pages where we really didn't have choices, but that's actually kind of a good thing, as we had lots of plot development and description and things. And then we had some, variety of choices. And of course, I'm a sucker for these books anyway. So this is one of my favorites. I'm going to put it up there. I'd say Return to the Cave of Time. I'm going to give it 5 flying saucers out of 5. 5 out of 5 flying saucers. So if you enjoyed this read-through, this game book with me, just take a minute, guys. Please take a minute. Press the thumbs up, leave a comment, and of course, subscribe. Really helps me out. And I hope you will check out some of the other videos, and definitely stay tuned for more great content. This is Brock. I say thanks for coming along with me, and I'll see you in the next adventure. Take care.